Good morning, traders. This is your morning market update. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. Whilst usually I would jump in straight to the Bitcoin charts, we're actually going to be looking at the main market news affecting both the stock markets and the crypto markets. I'm also going to be jumping into the stock markets first, looking at a few stock names and then covering Bitcoin and crypto. So, one of the main news stories coming out today is Trump deploying a carrier group towards Iran amid deadly protests. So, obviously, Trump had come out with comments recently de escalating the situation, saying he thinks that the killing has stopped, but it turns out that there have been reports that a lot of protesters have been executed. And we can see if we scroll down here. You can see President Trump responding to the people of Iran's pleas for help. Obviously, there's this story going around as well that their chief prosecutor has denied that the execution of 800 protesters has been cancelled. Obviously, this implies that actually the execution was not cancelled and 800 protesters were executed. So it remains to be seen what happens. Obviously, what does this mean for the markets? We've got the gold price soaring another new all-time high today. We've got the oil price as well starting to tick up. So that's the main story, and probably this is causing a bit of volatility in the markets when we go into the charts. We will see that shortly. We've also got Tesla profits plunging amid EV sales slump. So you can see there's certain graphics going around about Tesla's operating profits and how they've basically been trending down since 22, 23, despite some strong car sales. Well, they're now starting to say that the EV sales are slumping for Tesla. However, the stock soars on robo-taxi hopes, and I think this is the main bullish catalyst right here for Tesla. Elon Musk sharing this yesterday that the robo-taxi drives in Austin with no safety monitor in the car. So you can see here a totally driverless robo-taxi. Obviously, previously there were people, or almost handlers in the car, being able to sit and make sure that the car didn't make any errors and slam the brake pedals if and when necessary. However, this is what's going around now, driverless taxis, and obviously this is all great PR for Tesla. It looks like they are moving closer to Elon's vision of having a fully unsupervised robo-taxi being rolled out along the US. So obviously this is now launched in Austin, and of course if this does go well, we'd expect to see further rollouts across the United States and eventually around the world. So this is really big news for Tesla, and Tesla is one of those stocks we will jump into on the video. So we'll start by looking at the S&P 500, obviously main benchmark for stocks in the United States. And as you can see, we're pretty much, we closed last night around about 6,909. We're actually around these levels, just a few points down. And likely this is around I think the Iran news is probably sort of driving this pullback. Intel also had earnings last night, which even though they beat on revenues, they beat on earnings per share, their stock price did fall after an aggressive run up into those earnings. So I think the market was expecting earnings to come in better than estimates. And of course, that was probably a profit-taking opportunity for those traders that had actually bought in to those earnings being better than estimated. So, looking to see probably the market hold up here today. I'm not expecting us to move too much lower. Potentially around the open, we might come down and take some liquidity below these lows. But I am still expecting, if we sort of go out to the daily, I'm still expecting the market to push on higher over the next few days and weeks. So you can see our main resistance coming in, and I talked about this on last night's video. Our main resistance right now is these prior all-time highs back in October and early December. You can see we went above early on in January. We're coming back in and we're looking to test this now as resistance. So if the S&P can get a daily close above 6,927, just rounding up there, call it, then I will be expecting the S&P to move on higher and push on towards new all-time highs in Q1, and that is still my outlook for the S&P. And we've got the Nasdaq here looking similar. So as we can see, just going down to the hourly chart, the Nasdaq pretty much hovering around the close of yesterday. Um, that was here, so pretty much trading just below that today. I'm not expecting the Nasdaq to go too much lower. Potentially, we come into this sort of trend line that we've been respecting both as resistance and then as support. Obviously, we've got above it, so hopefully this holds as support again, and we can push on. The key level for us to get above here on the Nasdaq is going to be this 25,813 level. If we can break above there, that's also coming in as the underside of this ascending trend line. So that'll be quite a big level for us to get above in the Nasdaq, and certainly if we can do that, then we can see the market push on to new all-time highs, which I think does happen alongside the S&P. I do think the Nasdaq does make new all-time highs before correcting possibly a little bit later on in the year. So probably in the later half of this year. This is still my outlook for the Nasdaq. So looking at some of those individual stock names, then we can see Tesla is one of those stocks that I have been covering a lot over the last few days. And I said, because we were coming into this key support here, this would be a buy for me. Anything in this yellow box, we can see we've come into it a couple of times, coming as low as around about sort of 420, good number there, and bouncing really aggressively over the last day. And let's see whether Tesla can build on these gains and build on this momentum and push up to around about 470. 470 is my main target in the short term. I think we could be there as early as maybe today or next week. At that point, I'll personally be de-risking. I'm not too sure if Tesla will have the momentum to push through up to higher targets. Obviously, higher targets that I have shared before are up here around about 515, which would be a new all-time high, coming into some key resistance levels. So obviously we've got this trend line. We've got a couple of trend lines in play here. And then if we can get through that, then we've got an extended target up at this trend line. And this is pretty much just a copy of, I'm trying to think where this trend line came from, actually. It might have been a copy of this trend here. So let me just copy that up just to make sure. I'm pretty sure it is. And yeah, it's pretty much just a copy of that trend line. So potentially we will rally up to this level eventually, maybe later on in 2026. But I'm going to be playing this level by level. Obviously, full disclosure, I am long Tesla, and yeah, it's looking really good here. Obviously, happy with the buys down at these levels, and yeah, let's see if Tesla can push on. And another stock I have been talking about is Meta. So Meta coming into my buy zone along this ascending trend line and starting to get a reaction here. So Meta's another one I like. Obviously, if it does come back down towards 620 or anything under 620, that will be for me a decent DCA. And to be honest with you, anything around these levels are decent DCA buys. I still think Meta will have a good year, and eventually we'll see new all-time highs before the end of this year. We've also got SMCI here. So you can see in the pre-market, we're trading up nicely, $33.60. I've also been mentioning this on my last few videos, a decent buy at this level. Let's see if we can get some continuation. I still do think SMCI can come down one more time and give us another buying opportunity, but I will be expecting that to be a higher low. Obviously, at this point, it's been lower lows. We are working on a short-term higher high here. So what I'd be expecting next to see is probably some sort of higher low on the daily chart for us to move up towards this trend line, and then looking at a breakout from this trend line this year. So still like SMCI, obviously, if we come below around about sort of 25 on the downside and this ascending trend line, I'll start to get a bit more worried. But at these levels, it looks like a great buy for me. And then one of the other stocks I had on my top buys for 2026 was Occidental Petroleum. I have said I am bullish on some of these oil stocks this year. I do think the oil price will rise over the course of 2026. That's another position I'm in long. And it's nice to see Occidental back up in the pre-market this morning. Let's see if we can push on. What I really want to see on Occidental is for us to hold this horizontal now as support. If we sort of go here, we can see this has been a bit of a inflection point, and yeah, for us to get on and push on here, for me, this is a market structure break. You can see the price has started to go higher. So can we push on from these levels? I think so. And then another stock I've mentioned on my top stocks for 2026 is Occidental Petroleum. Obviously, I am bullish on oil, and by default, I am bullish on some of these oil companies. We can see here Occidental is trading up in the pre-market. It would be nice to decisively get above this 43.21 level and start to make our way up from here. And just looking at the longer term picture, we can see here we are in this consolidation. This is this sort of tightening pattern, almost like a wedge formation here, and we are going to be looking for resolution to this probably later this year. We are quite a long way through this, and of course, if the oil price does have a strong 2026, and we can see Occidental break out from this descending trend line, then I do think Occidental could run a lot higher. And for me, it's a really, really good buy here still at these levels. So on that note, then, I am long on oil here. I have been talking about the oil price. I did put out a trade on my X account saying that I had entered a long when this green 2 candle traded above this green 1, and also we broke out from this descending trend line. So for me, this was a trend break. This is a structure shift, and I now am targeting a move to the upside on oil, a greater move to the upside. I do think we can get up to the 70s, maybe as high as the 80s later on this year. Obviously, there's going to be larger resistance coming into the chart as we move higher. But if we just look at a longer term, I think sort of taking the most recent sort of major swing high from 2023 and down to where we are now, I would be looking for us to probably come up to around about $80. I think $80 is a reasonable target for this breakout on oil. So that is my expectation for the oil price. We can also look at a trend line here, and it's not that one. If we put on our sort of downsloping trend line, we've got a bit of a trend coming in here that will probably be interim resistance when we get there. So that's really what I'm looking at on the oil price, is probably a move back to this trend line. If we can break through there, a move up to around about $80 at some point this year. So a quick look at the price of Bitcoin, then we can see Bitcoin currently consolidating, trying to hold on to this longer term trend line that we're just above right now. I still think we can get a bounce from here, and we can see Bitcoin come up to this 92,500 level before likely rejection and breaking through these lows and moving down towards 80,000. We probably see a bounce there. But from there, I think it will be inevitable that we will drop down towards 69 to 70,000 on Bitcoin. So, yeah, just trying to be cautious. I don't really see any reason to be heavily long crypto whatsoever right now. It feels to me like you're getting none of the upside from the stock market, but you are getting all of the downside from the stock market. This is really in contrast to when crypto is in a bullish phase. And of course, the stock market's doing well, but Bitcoin's doing even better. It's outperforming to the upside because the liquidity conditions are good. We're at the right part in terms of the cycle. We've reset the market, and we're ready to go again. So I think right now what this market needs is a full reset. We really need to come down and see some much lower prices. And really, for me, the longer term target right here is this 200-week moving average, which is currently just below 60,000. So I think we likely come down to that. Maybe we come down to that in the first half of this year. There's probably some bounces along the way, but I think at some point this year we do come down closer to 60,000, and at that point I think it's time to probably look a bit more closely at crypto again. But until then, either You want to be, I think, lightened up, either waiting, just patiently waiting, or looking at trades on the short side, to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do hit the like, leave a comment if there's any stocks or any markets you want me to take a look at in future updates. And yeah, I mean, if you like getting these updates every morning, then please do subscribe because I will be doing them daily going forward. And have a great day. Obviously, happy trading to you traders out there. And yes, I will talk to you all again soon.